الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين وعلى آله وصحابته الطيبين الطاهرين. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل بدعة ضلالة. ثم أما بعد، أيها الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, yesterday we started the second part of our workshop, and we covered many topics. We talked about the Sunnah prayers in general, the different Sunnah prayers. Also we talked about, especially about the night prayer, witr prayer, and we went through some details. Also went through the Sunnahs that is prayed in congregation, in Jama'ah, and specifically Salat al-Eid. Inshallah, yes, I have few points I want just to clarify from yesterday. The first one is about Salat al-Eid. I said regarding Salat al-Eid, we have three opinions. Yesterday I mentioned only two of them. Three opinions. The first opinion, that Salat al-Eid is only highly recommended Sunnah. And this is the opinion of the majority. The opinion of the Shafi'is and the Malikiyah. They said it is highly recommended. Sunnah mu'akkada. The second opinion, this is the opinion of Imam Ahmad, it is a Hanbali madhab, that it is communal obligation, just like Salatul Janazah. It has to be done. If the community did not do it, everyone is sinning. But if a good number of people did it, then the other will be exempted. It will be only Sunnah for them. So this is the second opinion. The third opinion, which is the opinion of the Hanafis, and I mentioned that yesterday, that it is wajib. It's an obligation upon every single individual. And I found out many of the great scholars, they supported this opinion. Like Sheikh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah and Imam Al-Shawkani, and from the greatest scholars of our time, Sheikh Muhammad bin Salih Al-Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, they said the evidence of the Hanafis is very strong. That it seems to him that it is an obligation. It is an obligation upon every single individual to attend Salat al-Eid, Allah Ta'ala alam. This is the first point. The second point, which is about Salat al-Witr. If you remember, we mentioned different format of witr, either 3 rak'ah, either 2 and 1, or 3 altogether, 5 rak'at, all the way, you sit at the end, and 7 rak'at, you sit at the 6th and the 7th. Okay, I found an opinion of some scholars that for the 7 rak'at, you have the option to pray 7 straight with 1 tashahhud at the end. Okay? But the one mentioned in Sahih Muslim of Hadith Aisha radiallahu anha, that he sat at the 6th and the 7th rak'ah of the salah when he prays 7. Now when he prays 9, of course, he prays straight 9 rak'at, and also he sits at the 8th and the 9th rak'ah. And as I mentioned, there is a sunnah to pray 2 rak'ah sitting down after you finish your 9th rak'ah of witr. And I found out also is applied if you finish your 7th rak'ah, if you prayed 7 rak'ah. So what I'm added today, that if you pray with your 7 rak'ah, then after you finish those 7 rak'ah, still you can pray 2 rak'ah sitting down. And in the hadith of Abu Umama, he says that the Prophet ﷺ, I heard him reading Surah Al-Zalzala and Surah Al-Kafirun. So in those 2 rak'ahs that you do sitting down, in the first rak'ah after Al-Fatiha, you will read Surah إِذَا زُلْزَلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. And in the second rak'ah, you would read بعد Al-Fatiha, after the Fatiha, you read قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. So inshallah, try to perform it, using some of those different formats, inshallah. At least you would be reviving the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also, we talked about Salatul Masbuq. If you join the salah in the middle, as I said, whatever you caught with the imam is the beginning of your salah. So the rak'ah that you caught with the imam is your first rak'ah. And then you start counting. So once the imam finished, you would see how many rak'at missing, and is it the 3rd and the 4th, or the 4th rak'ah? And you do it exactly as you do your salah. And we gave the example if you join the Imam in Salat al-Maghrib in the last rak'ah. So his third rak'ah is your first rak'ah. Once he says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to the right and to the left, when you stand up, then you do your second rak'ah. Just like when you do your second rak'ah of Maghrib. You read loudly, you read Fatiha and Surah, then you sit down for the tashahhud, and then you stand up, do your third rak'ah, reading Fatiha alone, with recitation being quiet, and then you sit for tashahhud and make the taslim. Also, we talked about making up missing prayers. Yes? Yes, very good question. So, if you are praying with the Imam finished the salah, then you stood up to finish your salah. Then a brother or a sister came to join that sister. Is it acceptable? Yes, it's acceptable. And there is a rule here, inshallah. The rule or the principle says, I will say it in Arabic and I will translate inshallah into English. يصح اهتمام المتنفل بالمفترض والمفترض بالمتنفل والمفترض بفرض أن يأتم بمفترض يفترض يؤدي فرضا آخر. You have three situations here. A one who is praying a fard prayer can pray behind an imam who is praying a sunnah prayer, which is acceptable. To pray your fard behind someone who is praying a sunnah prayer. Or praying a fard behind an imam who is praying a different fard. Like, for example, you missed dhuhr prayer, and then you join someone who is praying another prayer, which is asr prayer, for example. Still, you can pray behind him. Okay? So, you can, all of those are acceptable, and you have many evidence from the Prophet ﷺ. Like one time, a man came late for Salat al-Dhuhr. The Prophet ﷺ asked him, "Yani what happens? Why you are late?" He said, "Because of so and so." Then the Prophet ﷺ turned to the companions and he said, "Man yatasaddaqu ala hada?" Who would give sadaqah to this person, meaning to pray with him? So one of the companions stood up and prayed with him. So that companion is already done with his fard. So whatever he's doing now is a sunnah prayer. Okay? Now, if this happened, who should lead the prayer? Now, if you come late to the prayer and someone wants to volunteer and pray with you, who should lead the prayer? You or the one who volunteered? More knowledgeable? You're very close. Any guess? A brother came late. Yes. Because we have a general rule. The Prophet ﷺ says, يَأُمُّ الْقَوْمَ أَقْرَأُهُمْ لِكِتَابِ اللَّهِ. Now, anytime, we want to have someone to lead the prayer, we should look for the one who memorizes more Quran than the others, regardless of his age. If he is a child who reaches the age of tamiz, discerning age, like 5 or 6 years old, and he knows the rules of the salah, and he memorizes Quran, or he knows Quran more than other adults, he deserves to lead the prayer. Providing that the masjid does not have a regular imam, ratib imam. If there is a ratib imam, of course, he is the one who deserves to lead the prayer all the time. Okay. So if you come late and someone wants to volunteer and pray with you, we should look who knows more Quran, you or the one who volunteers. Whoever knows more Quran would lead the prayer. So that's acceptable. So you can pray behind someone who praying sunnah or praying a different fard. Okay? Also, Mu'adh radiallahu anhu used to pray Salat al-Isha with the Prophet ﷺ, and then he turns back to his people, they are new Muslims, and he leads them again in Salat al-Isha. So he's already done with Isha. So for him it's a sunnah, and everyone behind him is praying fard. So the principle is a correct principle because it is supported by the evidence that your prayer, praying fard behind someone who is praying sunnah, is acceptable. So yes, if that brother or that sister stood up to finish the prayer and somebody else joined him, then his salah is acceptable. It's considered to be a jama'ah prayer. Yes? I'm sorry, you already did the prayer at home? The Fardi prayer. Okay, and you came to the masjid and you find them praying the same salah? Yes, you can do that. It's a sunnah to do that for male and females. Yani if you already did your Fard prayer and you came to the masjid and you find them doing the same prayer, then you would join them. Like the Prophet ﷺ says, تَكُنْ لَكَ نَافِلَةً. It becomes a nafila for you. Because one day the Prophet ﷺ, after he prayed Salat al-Fajr, he looked back and he saw two people sitting. They did not join the Jama'ah. And he asked him, why? أَلَسْتُمَا مُسْلِمَيْنَ? They said, we prayed at home. He says, قال إذا أتيتما مسجد جماعة. If you come to a masjid where a jama'ah is being performed, okay, and you are already prayed that prayer, قال فصليا معهم. Pray with them. تكن لكما نافلة. It will be counted for you as a nafil prayer. So, for example, they pray here Zuhr 12:30, right? So if you went to MCC, they pray 1:30 because there's a lecture or something like that, and you find them praying, then the sunnah for you is to join them, and even though you already did the prayer, and it will be counted for you as a sunnah. Yes. Any prayer. Yes, because those two companions, this happens in Salat al-Fajr, and we know that there is no Salah after Fajr, but it's an exception. So this applies to any Salah, Maghrib, Asr, Isha, any Salah. You know, if you already did the Salah and you find in a masjid they're doing the Salah again, then you join them. You don't do it intentionally, okay? But if it happens that you are at that masjid and they're doing the same Salah that you already did at home or at the masjid, you join them with that intention, it will be counted as a sunnah. It's a sunnah. Because you already done the fard. We are only required to do the fard once. Now, yes, sister. Assalam. You're saying that if someone comes to the masjid and they're praying Salat al-Fajr, right? Then you join them. So after the Salah, can you make your sunnah, the 2 rak'ah? Anyone can answer the question? Huh? Wow, what's the answer? You can. You know, if you missed your sunnah before Fajr prayer, okay, then do it. You have two options. You can do it right after the Salah, after you finish the Salah with the Imam, or you can delay it and wait until the sun rises up like 1 meter over the horizon, like 15 minutes after sunrise, and then you can do it then. So you have the two options, yeah. Because it is very highly, it's a highly emphasized sunnah, okay. And this is why, you know, when the Prophet ﷺ saw a man performing those two sunnah after Salat al-Fajr, he accepted and approved that, okay. طيب قضاء الفوائد, making up missed prayers. We said the opinion of the majority of the scholars that if you missed prayers, then you have to do it in the order. And we gave the example of someone who missed Dhuhr, Asr, and he did not remember until the time of Salat al-Maghrib, because he was sleeping, for example, or he forgot, or he get busy like the Prophet ﷺ and the companions during the battle of the Khandaq. They were very busy. They were not able to pray those two prayers until the time of Maghrib. So when the time of Maghrib came, they make the adhan, and then they did the iqamah and they prayed Dhuhr, then Asr, then Maghrib. So this is a general rule for the majority of the scholars. So it's an obligation to do them in the order. Okay. But there's some exceptions. Okay. One of the exceptions, if the time of the current prayer is about to expire. Like you did not pray Zuhur and Asr, but you remember like 5 minutes before the end of the time of Maghrib, and you do not pray Maghrib yet. So in this case, because you do not have enough time to do all of them, then you do the current prayer first. Then after that, you make up Zuhur and Asr. This is one exception. The second exception, if you forgot. Like you forgot that you did not pray Asr, and then you are praying Salat al-Maghrib. Okay. Now here, if you remember after you finish Maghrib prayer, you are okay. What you need to do is just to make Salat al-Asr. But if you remember while you are in the Salah, now here we have two opinions, and mentioned that yesterday. But I don't know, I don't have any preference to any of them. The first one, the Hanafi said, don't make difference. Continue your Salah and then make up the missed prayer right after the Salah. The second opinion, which is the opinion of the Maliki and the Hanbalis, both of them, they said, if you remember in the Salah, then that Salah you finish it quickly as a Sunnah prayer. Then after that, you pray the missed prayer and then the current prayer. Okay? Those are the two opinions, and I mentioned this yesterday. Now, if someone missed many prayers, if someone missed 6 prayers or more, and the time of the 7th prayer is in, like he missed, say, from Salat al-Fajr yesterday and Salat al-Fajr of today, and now is the time of Zuhur, which is the 7th prayer. Then in this case, he would start with the current prayer first. And then later on, he makes up those missed prayers. Here, يقول يسقط الترتيب. There is no tertib. You don't have to follow the order. If there are many prayers, like 6 or more. Okay, but if it's like less than 6, like he missed 5 prayers, and now this is the 6th prayer, he has to do it in the order. Start with the Fajr of the last day, the Zuhur last day, all the 5 prayers of last day, and then he will do the current prayer. Wallahu ta'ala. طيب, any question related to this part? Yes. Okay. Okay. Okay, very good question. If someone missed Asr prayer and he came to the masjid and they're praying Salat al-Maghrib, can he join them? Or should he just stay back, pray Maghrib or Asr and join them? Yeah, join them. The proper way, he joins them with the intention of Maghrib, Asr prayer. Then you pray, the first, the second, the third. Once the Imam says Taslim, he would stand up to do one more rak'ah, the 4th rak'ah of Asr, and this is the proper way to do it. Now, any question? Yes. Yes, if he missed 6 prayers, okay, and now this is the time for the 7th prayer. Yani, say he missed Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, and the Fajr of the next day. Okay, now this is the time of Dhuhr, which is the 7th prayer. If that is the case, he would do Dhuhr first of today, and then later on he will make up all those prayers. But if it's less than 6, if it's like 5, okay, and now this is the 6th prayer. Yani he missed Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, and now is the time for Salat al-Fajr of today. Then he would start with doing the Fajr of last day, and also Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha of last day, and then after that he will do his Fajr prayer. Of course, if there is no time to do all the 5 missed prayers, then he would start first with the current prayer. It's very easy rule, inshallah. Yes? Yeah.
And become conscious of out of surgery and want to make up like 15 really important.
Yeah. Anyone who is unconscious, okay, whether he missed a prayer or several prayers, he will be exempt. He doesn't have to make it up. he will be treated like majnoon, okay, and insane. If an insane, someone is insane for years, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him and he becomes sane again. He does not have to make up those prayers. Whether it's one prayer or 5 prayers or more than that, if he's unconscious, either due to a sickness or illness or because he has an STG or something like that, he does not have to make up those prayers. Okay, because he's not like someone who's sleeping. If you slept, you make up the prayers that if you slept or forgot. So he was not sleeping and he was not forgetting. And there is a difference between being unconscious and slept. Because the sleeping person, if you tapped him like this, he will wake up. That person will not wake up. So he is not required to make up those prayers. Okay? And if it's fasting, he did not fast a couple days because he's unconscious, he's not required to make up those days. Okay, is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
One of my colleagues, sometimes he prayed, Zohar prayed 4 rakat.
Okay.
And he said, I'm in hurry, so he only prayed 4 rakat. Is it okay?
Yeah, Zuhr prayer is 4 rakat.
Sunnah, he didn't pray Sunnah.
Yeah, the sunnah is a sunnah. What is the definition of sunnah? Sunnah means recommended. Meaning that if you do it, you will get reward, extra reward. But if you don't do it, then there is no...
Like in any condition, like if he is like, if someone have time, and still he did not pray.
طيب يعني سبحان الله before the one يعني who does so, they won't accept his testimony in a court of law. Okay? Because يعني a Muslim who knows that, this is highly recommended sunnahs, and he has time to do it. And even though he did not do it, I mean, this is something like if you give a gift to someone and he refuses to give it, what would be your feeling? So it's not for a Muslim to do that. But if it happened, is he committing a sin? No, he's not committing a sin, because it's not an obligation. But he's wasting a lot of reward. No. Wallahu alam. طيب, also witr, yes.
Sheikh, I used to work with his brother a couple years ago,
Okay.
and I would make salat, and I would hit him, say, let's go. Because in the building, in the basement, there was a place there was no traffic. I would make my salat down there. He would say, oh, no, I'm too busy. He said when he go home, he would make up all his salats.
He make it up?
Yeah.
No. The salah has to be done on time.
No.
Yeah, unless there is an excuse, or unless he's a traveler or ill or sick, he can combine the prayers. Yeah, but salah has to be done, yes, on time. Yes.
Okay, the one if he can pray sunnah after Asr.
Okay, and the other?
And the second one is that, when he came to the masjid, he already prayed like a 3 rakah. They are doing the last rakah. You make you join them with the last rakah. And when you're getting up for the second rakah, are you required to sit or just...
Time. This is like Salat Zuhur prayer. You join them in the 3rd rakah, right?
Right.
Time.
In the last rakah, actually, you join them with the last rakah. You only got to make the last rakah. So, after the last rakah, so you already have 1 rakah. You're trying to make up the 3 last rakah. So on your second rakah, are you supposed to sit or get up?
Very good question. But I need the answer from one of the brothers. You join the Imam in Salat al-Zuhur in the 3rd rakah of the Salah, right? In Salat al-Zuhur. So after the Imam makes taslim, how would you finish your prayer? Any answer? You want to answer? Yeah. You have a question? Okay. Yes.
Same as yesterday. You guys got these?
Wait, he said he joins in the 3rd rak'ah and like...
In Zuhur prayer.
Okay, fine. So if he joins as the 3rd rak'ah, the 3rd rak'ah of that salah will be his 1st rak'ah.
Okay.
Then after he finishes, if the imam That means if he comes at third, he's going to pray the third and fourth. So that he already prayed two.
Yes.
The tahiyyat, he'll do it.
طيب the last rak'ah, no problem. He joined in the fourth rak'ah of Salat
Okay,
al-Zuhr.
he joined as the fourth rak'ah, right? He comes back up. Now that's going to be his second rak'ah.
Yeah.
After that, he does the first tahiyyat.
Yes.
And then the third and fourth.
Exactly. So when you stand up, this will be your second rak'ah. Okay? So you do it exactly like when you do your zuhur by yourself. So you would sit down for tashahhud, and then you stand up to do the third and the fourth, and you do the salah in that respect. Yes? What's your first question?
Okay.
Yeah, can you do sunnah? There is no sunnah after asr.
After, sorry.
Yeah, there is no sunnah after asr. Yeah.
Going back to the inability to perform the salah, if you are physically unable because you are sick, how you are not obligated? I mean, are you still obligated to make up the prayers?
You know, as long as the human being is alive, he has to do the prayer. There is no exception. Now, if you are ill or sick, the Prophet ﷺ taught Imran ibn Hussein, he used to have hemorrhoid. And he said, you know, it's very hard for me to pray standing up. قال له صلي قائما فإن لم تستطع فقاعد. He says, pray standing up. If you cannot, pray sitting down. If you cannot, pray laying to your side. Or also can pray laying to your back. Okay? Now, if he's praying sitting down, okay, if he can make proper ruku' and sujood, then he must make proper ruku' and sujood. Because some people, they think, because they are unable to stand up, they sit all the time. No. If you are unable to stand up, sit down for the standing. But when it comes to ruku', just stand up briefly, make the ruku', stand up and make the sujood, proper sujood. Okay? But if you cannot even do ruku' and sujood, the proper way is just to move your head and back a little bit for ruku' and a little deeper for sujood. Okay? Now, if you are praying, laying to your side, how do you make ruku' and sujood? Or if someone is praying, laying on his bed. Now, if you are laying to your side, you lay to your right side, facing Qibla if it's possible. If not, khalas, you will be exempted from facing Qibla. Now, ruku' and sujood is done with what? With the head. He moves his head towards his chest a little bit for ruku' and a little deeper for sujood. The same thing applied if you are praying, laying on your back. But if you are on your back, then it's preferred to have your feet towards the Qibla. Okay. Now, if someone cannot move any part of his body, we know salah is composed of sayings and actions. If he's unable to do any of the actions, then he would do the sayings. Yani if he would say Allahu Akbar, and then he will recite, then he will say Allahu Akbar, and in his heart he intends to make ruku'. And then he will say Sami Allahu liman. So he will do every single saying in the salah. Because the Prophet ﷺ says, إِذَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِأَمْرٍ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. If I commanded you to do something, do it according to your ability. If he cannot move, then, and he can say, then he should say. So even a paralyzed person, if he can move his tongue and read, then he should do the readings and he will be exempted from all the actions of the salah. Okay? Yes?
Going to be Maghrib time. So if one prays in that, let me just say, what should one do in that situation?
Okay.
Right, or you go to the bathroom and you have an accident.
Okay.
And you find out that to really clean that is going to take, you're going to wet yourself and, so you, and a situation where by the time you get home, it's going to be Maghrib time.
Yeah, so I'm talking now about Asr time specifically.
Yes.
طيب. I will explore inshallah many situations. طيب. If this happened to someone, if he's unable by any way without harming himself, real harm to himself, okay, if he cannot wash that najasa, now we should see if this salah is salat al-zuhr, then he can delay it when he reach home and he can combine it with Asr prayer. Because if there is an excuse, because why we are allowed to combine the prayers? Not all the time because we are traveling. Any time, if it's hard for you to do the salah on time, you have the option to combine it. Like Zuhr and Asr or Maghrib and Isha. Like at work, they send you an email, you have to come to a meeting right now. It's mandatory. And the meeting starts from before Zuhr and lasts until Asr time. If that is the case, then you can have the intention to delay Zuhr and join it with Salat al-Asr. Okay? So if he can do that, then he would do that. But if he can clean himself, and pray, then he should do that. Now, if it's Asr prayer, Asr you cannot combine it with Salat al-Maghrib. So what should he do? Then that prerequisite of having your clothes free from najasa, you will be exempted from that. Then he can pray as is. Just make wudu and pray. Okay? Because you cannot delay Salat al-Asr and combine it with Maghrib prayer. But if it's Zuhr prayer or Maghrib, you can delay it and combine it with the following prayer. Okay? طيب, any question? Huh? لا خلاص. Once you are required to do the salah once. نعم. The answer?
Yeah.
طيب. We have two scenarios. Of course, if he can clean himself and pray, he should do that. Having just your clothes wet is not an excuse. But if there is harm, it will be harmful. Or there is no water, for example, to clean it. Okay, then خلاص, in this case, you move to the second option, which is this salah combinable with the following prayer? If yes, then delay it and combine it when you reach home. If it's not, then you pray, just make wudu and pray. You should not worry about that najasa present on. But if someone prayed, and after the salah, he found out there is a najasa on his clothes, like on his jacket. Okay, so what should he do? He already finished with the salah. And he discovered the najasa afterwards. This is my question. What should we do? You have enough time. Like it's the beginning of Salat al-Zuhr, and he has still 2 hours until Asr prayer. So what should he do? Yes. Okay. So she said, according to Shafi'i Madhab, that he must make it up. Okay? And you agree, yeah? MashaAllah. طيب, now I'm talking if you have time. You have 2 hours. You don't have to. You don't have to.
But if you don't, is your next salat, is it better?
Even if you have enough time, if you discover the najasa after you finish the prayer, you're okay. But what if you discover the najasa while you are praying? Now in this case we should see if it is possible for you to remove that jacket without having many movements or diverting from the direction of Qibla, then you should do so. Because the Prophet ﷺ, in the middle of the Salah, Jibreel informed him there is najasa on his shoes. So while he's praying, he took off his shoes. Okay, and you know how to refute the Shafi'i's opinion or evidence? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he did almost part of the Salah with the najasa present, but he was not aware about it. Okay. The same thing applied. If you are not aware about the najasa, the whole prayer, you will not be required to make it up. Okay. So here, if you discover the najasa after finishing the salah, you don't have to worry about it. But if you discovered it during the salah, we should see. If it's possible to remove it, alhamdulillah. Otherwise, you have to walk out of that salah, meaning breaking the salah, clean the najasa, and do the salah. Restart the salah again. Okay? تفضل.
So, what if, you're the imam and then you finish the salah? So, you're the imam, for example, and you finish half of the salah, and you remember you don't have wudu. So then you appoint someone else to lead the prayer. Now, does that nullify the congregation's prayer, first?
if an imam, also we should explore many scenarios. The first scenario, the imam in the middle of the salah, he realized that he does not have wudu. First of all, his salah is over. He cannot continue leading the prayer. Okay? What would happen to the prayer of the people behind him? Then he should try to pull someone to lead the prayer. Okay? And he will go, of course, make wudu, and he can come and join the prayer again, either as an imam or with the followers. Okay? Now, if he decided to come back and lead the prayer as an imam, he can do that. But it will make a lot of confusion to people. I don't encourage people to do that unless you educate people first. Because you know the imam al-ratib, if he's the ratib imam of the masjid, anytime he can come, if he found somebody else leading the prayer, he can still take over and lead the prayer. And it happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq led the prayer, and in the middle of the salah, the Prophet ﷺ came and he took over. But say, I don't want to go through these details, because you need to educate, if you are an imam, you need to educate people first. Inshallah, I'm going to have like a separate dawrah workshop for the imams. Inshallah, I'm going to include all those points related to being an imam. Okay, but here, you know, if the imam discovers that he does not have wudu, he needs to leave and pull someone to lead the prayer. Okay? Now, even what if he discovered right after the salah? Still, he has to make up the prayer. But for the rest of the people, they don't have to make up the prayer. Okay, type of question here might arise. We said if you discover the najasa after the salah, you do not have to make up the prayer. But if you discover that you prayed without wudu after the salah, you find out that you prayed without wudu, you must make the salah. Why? What's the difference? Both of them are prerequisite. Being in wudu is a prerequisite. Being free from najasa is a prerequisite. So we're saying if you prayed with najasa, you don't know about it, but you knew about it after the salah, don't worry, don't make up your prayer. But if you prayed without wudu and you discover that after the salah, you have to make up the salah. What's the difference? Yes? Huh? No, I knew after the salah. The same thing for the najasa. I knew about it after the salah. But in the case of the najasa, you don't have to make up the salah. In the case of wudu, you must make up the salah. Yes, go ahead. Huh? Also, you are required to pray without najasa too. Right? And if someone intentionally knew there is najasa on his clothes and he prayed, his salah is invalid. But we're talking about if he forgot about the najasa, his salah is valid. But if he forgot about wudu, his salah is not valid. Also, there is no salah with najasa present on one's. Yeah. Was there a difference? Yes.
I think the difference is if you know you are going to pray, it's obligatory upon you to make wudu. But the najasa could be accidental.
Both of them are accidental. Any answer? Yes. That's not the reason. You know, I will tell, inshallah, I'll teach you a principle. It's applied to this situation and to other different situations. Okay? Let's go to the principle. You want to answer? Yes.
What you said brings two conditions, which maybe is the same thing. That if you have najasa on you and you go ahead and make wudu, and then you forget that you have najasa on you and you go and pray. And the other condition is you don't know at all, and you make wudu, you go and pray. So, I don't know if this...
No, that's not the reason. The question is why we don't make the prayers if we discover an najasa after the salah, while we have to make it up if we discover that we prayed without wudu. In order to answer this question, we need to know about two things. Okay? The first is called فعل المأمور, which means doing an obligation. Okay? And the other terminology is ترك المحظور. Leaving or refraining from a prohibition. Okay? Now, فعل المأمور is to do an obligation. ترك المحظور is to refrain from doing something prohibited. Okay? طيب. Now, if the command is to do an obligation, forgetfulness is not an excuse. Okay? So if someone failed to perform an obligation, whenever he remembers, even after years, he must do that obligation. Okay? This is what the principle says. That as for فعل المحظور, for فعل المأمور, doing an obligation, being forgetfulness will not, is not an excuse. So whenever you remember, you have to make up that wajib. Okay? While refraining from a prohibition or a forbidden thing, if you forgot and you commit it, you will be exempt. You won't be held accountable for that. Okay? Type an example. Here, if you forgot to pray a prayer, say someone forgot to pray Salat al-Zuhr, and he remembered after 10 years, he needs to make up that prayer. Because the Prophet ﷺ says, من نام عن الصلاة أو نسيها فليصليها إذا ذكرها. فليصليها. He must pray it whenever he remembers it. Okay? طيب. Now, ترك المحظور, if someone committed a prohibition out of forgetfulness, he will not be held accountable. Example, during the days of Ramadan, we are prohibited from eating and drinking. What if someone forgot and he ate and drank? Does this affect his fasting? No. Well, but because of this rule, and also the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, that if one of you ate or drank during the days of Ramadan, he should just resume and continue his fasting. You should stop, of course, eating and drinking once you remember, and then continue fasting, and you don't have to make up that day. Why? Because you are commanded to refrain from eating and drinking. But you forgot. So here is an excuse. But here is not an excuse. Okay? Now, we are commanded to refrain from najasa. So, refraining from najasa falls here. And we are commanded to perform wudu. So, performance of wudu is here. So, if you forgot and you prayed without refraining from najasa, you are okay. But if you forgot without doing wudu, you are not okay. Why? Because فعل المأمورات لا يعذر فيه بالنسيان. Performing obligations, forgetfulness is not an excuse. Whenever you remember. But if he did not remember until he died, he's okay. But whenever he remembers, like if after years he remembered that he prayed that salah without wudu, okay, then he must make wudu and do that salah, make up that salah. Okay? Yes?
When the Prophet ﷺ prayed the salah,
Salah, yeah.
and Jibreel ﷺ came, told him,
Yeah.
he took the shoes off,
Yeah.
and he continued. Is there an evidence, or is there any narration where something like that happened with wudu? Or can you say that with najasa this happened,
Yes.
and Prophet ﷺ didn't repeat the part that he prayed with najasa?
No, we don't have
So-
any evidence that the Prophet ﷺ or any of the companions lost his wudu during the salah. But for the general principles and rules, Because not every single act that we need to have a specific hadith that addresses that act. We have a general principle, okay? That this principle, which is established based on evidence, either from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And as I said to the brother, all the time it's better, instead of just knowing the rule, to know the qaida or the principle that govern that rule, so you can apply it in every single act. Okay? So there is no specific hadith addressing the issue of someone who lost his wudu and what should he do. Okay? But from the principles, because we know it is a prerequisite, right? And all the prerequisites, if someone intentionally did not do it, his salah is invalid. Okay? But if he forgot to do it, does he have to repeat the salah? Yes. If it's wudu, yes. Why? Because of that principle. That because he did not do an obligation. But for the najasa, he did not refrain from the prohibition. So these are two different things. Okay? And this is why, they said, فعل المأمورات يعذر فيه بالنسيان. No, لا يعذر فيه بالنسيان. It's not an excuse if you forgot to do an obligation. Whenever you remember, you have to do it. Wallahu ta'ala alam. طيب. Now, inshallah, I'm going to talk about sujood al-sahu, and we have a lot of issues related to sujood al-sahu. First of all, let's define what's meant by sahu. Sahu literally translated as forgetfulness. Okay, so sujood al-sahu is the prostration that we do when we make mistakes in the salah out of forgetfulness. So it is sujood as-sahu. Okay, sujood as-sahu. Okay, or the prostration for forgetfulness. It's defined as 2 sajdas that you do either before or after the taslim. And there is no tashahhud after doing those 2 sajdas. So you make the 2 sajdas and then you make another taslim. If it's afterwards, of course. Okay? If it's before the taslim, you make the tashahhud first, then you do the 2 sajda, then you make taslim. There is no tashahhud after that, according to the stronger opinion of the scholars. So the definition of sujood al-sahu is 2 sajdas that we make either before or after the salah when we make a mistake in the salah out of forgetfulness. Okay? There are 3 circumstances that requires sujood al-sahu. The first one is called az-ziyada. Az-ziyada, or addition. If you add it to the salah, if you forget and you add something to the salah. The second is called an-naqs, which means omission. Double M or 1 M? Omission. 2 M? 1? خلاص. Like this? Omission? From omit. 2 M. Okay. خلاص. You add 1 here. No problem. No problem. I mean, omission. If you omitted something from the salah. Okay? And number 3 is doubt or uncertainty. Okay? So those are the circumstances or the causes of sujood al-sahu. Either you forgot and you add to the salah, or you forgot and you left part of the salah, or you are in doubt. You are not sure whether you added or omitted from the salah. Okay? So let's start with the first one, which is az-ziyada. Az-ziyada is when you add something to the salah. An example. We are supposed to pray Salat al-Asr 4 rak'at. If someone forgot and he added a rak'ah, like in the 4th rak'ah, instead of sitting down to make the tashahhud, he forgot and he stood up. This is an example of addition. Or for example, in a salah, in a rak'ah, we are supposed to make 1 ruku', right? To say Allahu Akbar, Sami Allahu liman hamida. If he forgot and he made another ruku', it's an addition. The same thing, if instead of making 2 sajdas, he made 3 sajdas. Okay? So this is a very clear example. Now, how you deal with such type of mistakes? If an addition is like this, whenever you realize while you are doing that addition, whenever you realize this is an addition, you have to stop right away. You cannot continue. Like, for example, if someone is making a 3rd sajda, and he's saying, Subhana Rabbi al-Ala, okay, and then he remembers this is an additional sajda. He cannot say, let me say Subhana Rabbi al-Ala one more. No. Once he realizes, you have to correct the mistake. It means that he should raise his head. Okay? And then go and continue doing the salah in that respect. And after he finishes the prayer, he make 2 sajda. After the taslim. Why? Because an addition. So the rule, if it's an addition, you do it after 2 sajda after the taslim. Okay? You make the taslim, and then you prostrate twice. Allahu Akbar, you make the first prostration, then Allahu Akbar, raise your head, then Allahu Akbar, you do the second prostration, Allahu Akbar, then taslim to the right and to the left. Because you added. So the first example of addition is if you added a rak'ah or a sujood or a ruku' or a sitting. Instead of sitting once, in the middle, and in the end, he sit twice. He sat in the second rak'ah and he forgot, and he sat again in the third rak'ah. So any addition like this should be corrected just by, once you realize, get out from that position, continue the salah, and make 2 sajdas only after the taslim. Okay? Yes? Very good. Now I stood for the 5th rak'ah. And I start reading Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Then in the middle of Fatiha, I realize this is an additional rak'ah. Or I am the imam and the people behind me say, Subhanallah, they notified me. What should I do? I should not continue finishing the Fatiha. Once I realize, I would sit down right away. Do I have to say Allahu Akbar? Just sit down. Just sit down. Okay? And make your tashahhud. And then make taslim to the right, to the left, and then prostrate twice. Make 2 sajdas, and then after the second sajda, you make taslim to the right and to the left. Okay? Because you add it to the salah. So this is the first example for addition. There are many examples of additions. Okay? Now, if the addition is like this, then you correct it just like I explained. Now, طيب, if someone forgot and he made taslim before actually finishing the salah. Like in Salat al-Asr, when I'm sitting to the tashahhud, the first tashahhud, instead of standing to the rak'ah, I forgot and I said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum. Okay, so I made taslim before actually finishing the salah. Is this an addition or omission? Omission or addition? It's an addition. Why? Because in order to correct this mistake, you have to do more acts. Now, I made the taslim, right? Once I realized this is not the 4th rak'ah, what should I do? I have to stand up, right? Finish my salah. Now, and then after the 2nd rak'ah, at the 4th rak'ah, I would make tashahhud and taslim, right? So I end up, to correct this mistake, I end up doing more actions in salah. I made 2 taslims in one salah. I'm only required to make taslim once at the end of the salah. So I made taslim after the 2nd rak'ah, and I made taslim after the 4th rak'ah. So I added to the salah, I added 1 taslim. So it's not an omission, it is addition. So you correct it as I said. Once you realize this is not the proper time to say taslim, you have to stand up. Okay? Do you have to say Allahu Akbar or not? Huh? Yeah, say, for example, I made the taslim, then I left. Like I made few steps, then I realized that, I made taslim in the 2nd rak'ah. Okay? Just tell me practically how we do. Now I am just facing this direction. Do you have to go to the same place? I can't, okay. Because I used to pray there. Then I walked until I reached the door. Then remember that? No, I made that mistake. Do I have to go to the same place? No. But I have to face Qibla, of course. طيب, now I'm standing up. Okay? What should I do? What is the last thing that I did correctly? Sitting down. After that sitting down, what should I say? And to stand up, right? But I did not say that. So I have to go back and sit down. And then say Allahu Akbar to stand up. Because standing up is part of the salah. I did not do that. So I cannot just, while I'm standing up, face the Qibla and do the third rak'ah. No. I need to sit down to say Allahu Akbar. Because I miss doing Allahu Akbar. Instead of saying Allahu Akbar, I made the taslim. So you go to the last thing that you did properly, which is sitting. So you sit down, then you say Allahu Akbar, you stand up, you make the third, the fourth, and then after the taslim, you make 2 sajdas because you added to the salah. So this is another example of addition. A third example of addition, if you forgot a rukun, if you left one of the essential components of the salah. طبعا, if you miss takbiratul ihram, your entire salah is invalid. But any rukun other than takbiratul ihram, you can fix the problem. I'm going to inshallah explore many examples. Okay? That's the first example. Let's take one of the essential components. Reading Fatiha. We all agreed that Fatiha is an essential element of the salah, right? طيب. If I forgot to read Fatiha, said Allahu Akbar, قل هو الله أحد, finish it, then I said Allahu Akbar, I went to the ruku'. Okay? Then I went to the sujood. Now, if I remember while I'm in ruku' or sujood, the first thing I have to do, I have to stand up. Do I have to say Allahu Akbar? What is the last thing you did properly? Qiyam. So you don't have to say Allahu Akbar. You have to go back to that position. Okay? Read Fatiha. And of course, recommended to read the surah after that. Then you make a ruku', your sujood. Continue. Finish the salah in that respect. And after the taslim, you make 2 sajdas. Because here you add it to the salah. Yes, you omitted Fatiha, but you end up doing many actions. You did an extra, because the ruku' that you did is not counted, but you did it. The sujood that you did is not counted. Because a proper ruku' must be after a proper recitation of Fatiha. Yes? Now.
How about if someone is an imam?
Even if he's an imam. If an imam, طبعا we should notify him by saying Subhanallah.
No, we don't know whether he read it.
Oh, very good. Inshallah, let me lay this question. Okay, because after we finish, I will show you how to answer. The imam in Salat al-Zuhr, you don't know. If you are in the imam and you find out that you did not recite Surah Al-Fatiha in the sujood, everyone behind you, he thinks everything is okay. So what should you do? You have to correct the mistake. You have to stand up.
So if you don't say Allahu Akbar,
You have to follow the imam. If he stand up to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, everyone has to follow him. Okay, and you know, this is why, you know, we need to learn about the rules of the Salah, because things like this can happen. So people now, it might seem to them it's very strange how this imam is standing up. But if you know about the rules, the first thing come to my mind that, you know, this maybe he made a mistake. I would say Subhanallah. Okay, if he did not, and I know he's a faqih imam, then I would realize that he made a mistake, and this is why he stood up to correct it. Okay? طيب. Now, the first scenario, you remember that you did not recite Fatiha in ruku' or in sujood. The second scenario, you did not remember that you missed Fatiha until you stood up for the second rak'ah. Now, I am in my second rak'ah reading Fatiha. I remember that I did not read Fatiha in my first rak'ah. Now, in this case, your first rak'ah is cancelled. It's not counted. And this second rak'ah becomes your first rak'ah. Okay? Then you do the second, the third, the fourth, and after the taslim, you make 2 sajda, prostration of forgetfulness. Is it clear? But what if this happened in the second rak'ah? In my second rak'ah, I forgot to recite Fatiha. But I did not remember until I stood up for my third rak'ah. How do you solve it? No, you don't. No, if you're already up, if you reach the place of that missing rukun, you don't go down. Okay? Yani, let me just say it again. I missed reading Fatiha in the second rak'ah. But I did not realize until I stood for the third rak'ah, and I am reciting now Fatiha of the third rak'ah, then I remember that I did not read Fatiha in the second rak'ah. What should I do? My second rak'ah is cancelled. The third now becomes the second. So I have to do the third and the fourth and prostrate twice after the taslim. So the second scenario that you remember when you reach the place of that missing rukun. But a third scenario that you did not remember until you finish the salah. Now I finished my salah, I made the taslim to the right and the left, then I realized that I did not read Fatiha, say in the second or the first or the third rak'ah. So what should I do? How do you fix this? Yes, Sayyid. All of it. It depends. If you remember close enough to the end of the salah, then you can fix it. You don't have to repeat it. Say just right after the taslim, I realized, or someone watching me said, brother, I'm 100% sure you did not pray, you did not make ruku', for example, in the first rak'ah or the second rak'ah, or you missed such and such pillar. Okay, so how do you fix this problem? I need a practical. Now I made the taslim, I stood up, I start talking to brother Mi'raj, for example. Then I remembered, like a minute or so, I remembered that I did not read Fatiha, for example, in my first rak'ah. What is the last thing that I did properly? Because I missed this rukun in the first rak'ah, in fact, I prayed 3 rak'ah. So the last rak'ah I did is not my fourth rak'ah, it's my third rak'ah. In that third rak'ah, I made the sujood correctly, right? From the sujood, instead of standing up to make up for that missing rak'ah, for that rak'ah in which I missed the rukun, I sat down, I made the tashahhud and taslim. So the tashahhud is not proper, the taslim is not proper. So the last thing that I did properly is sujood. Okay, so what should I do? Okay. No, I made the sajda, the 2 sajdas properly, and I said Allahu Akbar. Okay? So from that position, I'm supposed to stand up. Meaning that I said the Allahu Akbar properly. But instead of standing up, I sat down, which is improper. Okay? So my sitting is improper, tashahhud is improper, and taslim is not proper. So I have to sit down and stand up again without saying Allahu Akbar. Okay? I will read Fatiha, and then make the ruku' and the sujood, and then the tashahhud and the taslim, and I do 2 prostration after the taslim. Now the fourth scenario, if I remember after a time, like after I lost my wudu or after I went home, I remember that I did not read Fatiha in the first or the second rak'ah, then I have to repeat the salah. If there is a long separation between when you finish the salah and when you remember, then you have to redo the salah. Okay? So this is a third example of addition. So the 3 examples that I mentioned, the first example is if you added a rak'ah or a ruku' or a sujood, you made 3 sajdas instead of 2. This is very clear. Whenever you remember, you have to stop doing that additional act, okay, and finish the salah properly and make the 2 sajdas after taslim. The second example is if you made taslim before actually finishing the salah. Here it's considered to be an addition. Why? Because you end up doing 2 taslims in 1 salah. So once you realize, you have to finish the salah and then do 2 sajda after taslim. And the third scenario, if you missed a rukun. Okay? Let's give you an example. If I forgot to make ruku' in my first rak'ah, now after the recitation of Fatiha and the surah, I said Allahu Akbar and went all the way to the sujood. While I'm in the sujood, I remember that I did not make ruku'. How do you fix it? This is the sisters. How do you fix this? Now I am making sujood, then I realize that I did not make ruku'. How do you fix it? What is the last thing that I did properly? Qiyam and the recitation. Okay? And then after that I said Allahu Akbar, which is correct. But the mistake started when instead of making ruku', I went all the way. So I have to go up, I have to stand up, and then make the ruku'. Okay? And then stand up from the ruku', make the sujood, and finish the salah in that respect, and then make 2 sajda after the taslim. In fact, you don't have to go up to qiyam because you did qiyam properly. Okay, and you start moving. So you can just from the sujood stand up to the position of ruku'. Okay, and then finish the salah in that respect and make 2 sajda after taslim because you are. If you remember while you are reading Fatiha in the second rak'ah that you did not make ruku' in the first rak'ah, what should you do? You have to go to the position of ruku'. Okay? What if you remember while you are making the ruku' of the second rak'ah? Now here, because you reach the place of the same missed element in the following rak'ah, you cannot, what should you do? You are in ruku' now, okay? So now your first rak'ah is not counted, and this second rak'ah becomes your first rak'ah, and you continue in that respect and make 2 sajda after taslim. And of course, if you remember after taslim, if it's close enough, like a minute, 2, something like that, then of course you just make 1 more rak'ah. If it's after long time, then you have to redo the salah again. Yes? Yes. The young guy.
If you're praying behind the imam and you forget to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, what do you do?
Very good. Surah Al-Fatiha is an essential element of the salah if you are praying by yourself or if you are at the imam. Okay? Now, if you are praying behind an imam, do you have to recite Surah Al-Fatiha? It's one question. You have to recite it. We mentioned, in the first part that reading Al-Fatiha. But if you are the imam or praying by yourself is an essential component of the salah. But if you are praying behind an imam, you have 2 opinions. For the Hanafis, you don't have to read Fatiha at all behind the imam, whether he's reading loudly or quietly. Period. Okay. For the rest of the scholars, it has become a wajib, but it's not an essential element of the salah. Now, if you are praying behind the imam in Salat al-Zuhr, for example, and you forgot to read Surah Al-Fatiha, you missed a wajib, right? So you make the taslim with the imam and you don't have to do anything. Because if you missed a wajib, if you are praying by yourself and you miss any wajib for wajibat al-salah, you have to prostrate twice before the taslim. But since your salah started with the imam and ended with the imam, then the imam will take that from you. You don't have to make any prostration. But if you join the imam in the middle, I joined the imam in the middle of the second rak'ah of the salah, and I missed the Fatiha. This is Salat al-Zuhr, okay? Now I missed a wajib. Now once the imam finishes the salah, I will stand up to make up, the missing rak'ah because I joined him in the second rak'ah. And then before my taslim from that rak'ah, I will do 2 sajdas. Why? Because I omitted a wajib from my salah. Is it clear? No. Huh? خلاص, I will, inshallah, let me come to the naqs, and inshallah I will answer this question again. Okay? Omission of the salah. Now, omission of the salah here is dealing only with the wajibat, not the essential components. Because if you missed an essential component, a rukun, you have to make up the rukun and prostrate after taslim, like what we said here. But if you missed a wajib of the salah, you don't need to make it up. You only prostrate twice before the taslim. What are the wajibat of the salah? We mentioned them yesterday and 2 weeks ago. What are the wajibat of salah? All the takbirat except takbirat al-ihram. Sitting for the first tashahhud, right? And reading tashahhud when you sit in the first tashahhud. Okay? And we said the tasbih and ruku' and sujood, according to the Hanbalis, which is a very strong opinion, is also from the wajibat. So if you miss any one of those, like for example, instead of saying Allahu Akbar for ruku', you forgot, you said Subhanallah, or just you moved without saying it. So now you left a wajib. This is an omission from the salah. Okay? Or if you sat down for the tashahhud, but you don't recite tashahhud. Sometimes, subhanAllah, people, they forget. Remember one time a brother just praying beside me, and I hear him reading Fatiha while he's sitting for tashahhud. So he omitted a wajib, right? So if this happened, if he remember while he reading Fatiha in that tashahhud, he should just stop reading Fatiha and read the tashahhud, and there is nothing for him. But if until he stood up, he did not read tashahhud, then he missed a wajib. Or if he forgot, instead of sitting, he stood up to the third rak'ah. He did not sit down. So he left a wajib. Okay? Now, if he forgot to say tasbih on ruku' and sujood, according to that stronger opinion, he left a wajib. So if anything of that happened, what he needs to do? If he missed sitting down and stood up, he should not go back and sit down. No. He must continue in the salah, but he has to make 2 sajda before the taslim. Why? Because he omitted. So here we have the 2 sajdas before. In case if he missed a wajib. Okay? طيب, if he forgot to sit down for the first tashahhud. I'm sorry? If he's the imam? This applied for everyone, the imam or not the imam. But the imam, we remind him. If he forgot, for example, to sit down and he stood up, we say subhanallah. Not for him to come down, no. To remind him that he missed that wajib. So he needs to make the 2 sajda after taslim.
For somebody who's not moved, does he have to make sujood sahw by himself?
Yes, yes. Yes, even if you're not the imam, you made the mistake. You know, those he has applied to whether you're praying by yourself or you are the imam. So you're praying by yourself at home and you forget to sit down for the first tashahhud, you stood up all the way. Continue the salah, make 2 sajda before taslim. طيب, if while you are standing up, you remember that you did not sit for the first tashahhud, you need to sit down right away. If you are not fully up, okay, sit down again, read your tashahhud, and finish the salah. And then you need to make 2 sajda of sahw. Should you do it before or after?
Salam alaikum.
The
question the sister is asking is if you are praying behind the imam, and the imam, and you make the mistake behind the imam.
Okay. So this is a question, huh? Okay, sorry. طيب, I will get to the question. I'll answer my question first. If I forgot to sit down, then I start standing up. But before I am up, I remember that I did not sit for tashahhud. So I have to sit down. Okay? Say your tashahhud and then finish the salah in that respect. Now the question, should you do the 2 sajda before taslim or after taslim? You do after, because you add it to the salah now. A half movement, you start moving, and then you come back again. So it's an addition. So in this case, you do the 2 sajda after the taslim. Okay? But if you are all the way up, don't come back, don't come down. Continue in the salah and do the 2 sajdas before the taslim. Now for the question, if you missed any of the wajibat behind the imam, now here you have 2 scenarios. If your salah started with the imam and ended with the imam, then you don't have to do anything. The imam will, الإمام يتحمل, will take that from you. Now, if you join the imam in the second rak'ah of the salah, right, and you miss the wajib, either in the second or the third or the fourth rak'ah, okay? Here, because you missed the first rak'ah, after the taslim of the imam, you need to stand up and do the rak'ah that you missed, okay? Here you have to make the sujood al-sahw. Because now you already departed from the imam and you are doing your fourth rak'ah by yourself, right? Now here, if you miss that wajib, before making your own taslim, you make 2 sajda of sahw. Is it clear? Yeah. And this also answers the previous question. That if you made this mistake and you do not read Fatiha behind the imam, reading Fatiha behind the imam for the muqtadi is not an essential, is not a rukun, it is wajib. So if you are not able to read it, then if your salah started with the imam and ended with the imam, there is nothing to be done. If you join the imam in the middle of the salah and you have to make up for the missing rak'at after the imam, then before your taslim you make those 2 sajdas, wallahu alam. This is about omission. Yes?
Person who joined before ruku, imam go to ruku, for the second rak'ah, for example. So he doesn't have the time to read the Fatiha. In which case, you have to make...
No. If you join the imam in ruku', you should count that rak'ah. And you will not be held accountable for Fatiha. This is an exception. Okay? If you join, because reading Fatiha, you'll be exempted. Reading Fatiha is not or wajib for you if you join the Imam in ruku'. You cannot say, let me read Fatiha and then join him. No. If he's in ruku', you join him in ruku' and you count that rak'ah. Now, طيب. Now, the last cause for sujood al-sahw is doubt. Now, for doubt, we have two types. Either you are completely uncertain. In the middle of the salah, you get in doubt. Is this my second sajda or my third sajda? Sorry, is this my second rak'ah or my third rak'ah? There is no clue. يعني 50-50, you don't know. You are totally unsure, uncertain. The second situation, I'm still not sure, but most likely, I think, is it the second or third? Most likely, I think it's my third rak'ah or my second rak'ah. I have some sort of a clue or an evidence that suggests that most likely this is my second or my third rak'ah. Yes? This is a different qaida. This is about if you are certain about something, then you get doubt about it. Like, for example, I'm 100% sure that I made wudu for Salat al-Zuhr. Now is the time for Salat al-Asr. I get in doubt. Did I break my wudu or not? I'm not sure. So the certainty here that I already had wudu. I'm sure about that for the whole time. But I'm now in a state of uncertainty now at Asr time. Did I break my wudu or not? In this case, you should not worry about this doubt. But here, I am doubtful about the number of rak'at. There is no certainty here. I am doubtful. Is this my second or my third? Okay, so the first type of doubt that I'm not sure, there is no clue. Here the Prophet ﷺ says, قَالَ فَلْيَبْنِ عَلَى مَسْتَيْقًا. Whatever here, what is now? Is it my second or my third? Okay, so you choose the less of the two, which is the two here, because this is the certainty here. Okay, so you make it two, you make it the second rak'ah, finish the salah in that respect, and prostrate twice before the taslim. There is a specific evidence hadith that addresses this issue. If you are completely uncertain, قال فليبني على ما استيقن. This is the two, the less of the two. Is this my third or my fourth? If I'm not sure, 100% not sure, make it the third, not the fourth. And then finish the salah, and before the taslim, make two sajdas. This is the first scenario. The second scenario, is it my second or my third? Most likely, this is my third rak'ah. I have a clue. Like, for example, I remember I read قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ in my first rak'ah, and that's way ago. Or I sneezed in my first rak'ah, for example. A clue like that, anything that bring, because now there is two possibilities. Still you are not certain, but one of them is heavier than the other. Then here, you should go for the one that you think is most likely the case, whether the second or the third. Okay? Here the Prophet قال فليتحرى. He should try to make some, to reach a decision. Okay, even you're not sure 100%. If you reach a point that most likely this is my third rak'ah, make it the third rak'ah. Or most likely this is my second rak'ah, make it the second rak'ah. And you finish the salah in that respect, but you make the two prostration afterwards. After. Here, if you are totally uncertain, the two sajda before taslim. If you are most likely you think it is the third or the second, and you build and you complete the salah based on that, then you make the two sajda after taslim. Okay, is it clear? Both of them are addressed by a specific or authentic hadith. Okay, now for the case of doubt, if it is totally uncertain, go for the less of the two and make the two sajda before taslim. If most likely is it such or such, go for that and make the two sajda after taslim. Now, an issue which arises, if you enter the masjid and the imam in ruku' and you join him in that position, you should count that rak'ah, right? Now, if I am doubtful, did I caught him while in ruku or he moved at that time? Sometimes, there are many lines, okay? And then you went to the ruku, but you are not sure whether you caught him in the ruku or not. Because unfortunately, some imams, they say, Sami Allahu liman hamida. No, they move first, and then they say, Sami Allahu liman hamida. Some of them, they say it before they moved. And we said the proper way is to say it while you are moving, okay? So now I joined the imam, but I'm not sure. Did I catch him in ruku or not? So what should you do in this situation? Should you count it or not? You follow the same rule. If you are totally uncertain, then you should not count it. You should not count that rak'ah. If you most likely think you caught the rak'ah, then you should count it. Now, if this is the first rak'ah, and you are not sure that, you are not sure that you caught it or not, you should not count it. And then when you stand up to make up this rak'ah, because you not count it, okay, before the taslim, you have to make 2 sajda. Why? Because you built your decision on uncertainty. Okay. Now, if you count it, because you most likely think you caught the imam, and your salah finished with the imam, you don't have to do anything. But if this happens in the second rak'ah, I came to the masjid in the second rak'ah, they are in ruku', I think most likely I caught the ruku'. Then count it. So the second rak'ah will be your first. After the taslim, you have to stand up to make more rak'ah. And after you own taslim, you have to make 2 sajda before taslim, because this is a situation similar to this one. Is it clear? Clear or complicated? Huh? Yes. Yani if you are not sure that whether you caught the rak'ah or not, but most likely you think you caught that rak'ah. And this is the second rak'ah of the salah. So after the imams finish the prayer, you counted that rak'ah, but you already missed the first one. So you have to do 1 more rak'ah. After your taslim, you make 2 sajdas. Why? Because you finish the salah based on most likely the case. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, tafadhal.
Are you saying then if you come into the salat late, you should always make the extra 2 sajdas?
No.
Or only if you...
No, if you are sure that you caught the imam in ruku', khalas, you're okay. I'm saying, it happened to me today. I was at Dar es Salaam, and then when I joined them, I was not sure. Because they have, mashallah, many lines. Okay, I'm totally uncertain that this is, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I caught the ruku'. So I did not count that rak'ah. I finished my salah, and before my taslim, I made 2 sajdas. Why? Because this is similar to this case. Similar like you are in the salah and you get in doubt. Is my second or my third? You don't have any clue. Okay. But if I think most likely I caught the rak'ah, then I should count it. Now, if my salah finished with the imam salah, I don't have to do anything. If my salah has to finish after the imam salah, because this happened in the second rak'ah, then I have to make 2 sajda after my taslim. Naam, tfadhal. طيب, it's not clear, huh?
No, I said, but you are sure.
Huh?
But this one you are sure. You don't have to make it up.
No, if you are sure, you don't have to make it up. Yes. طيب, you ask a question. I can repeat it. I will repeat the question. ما في مشكلة.
I thought that when we add, we will make the 2 sajda after taslim. But when we doubt and then go to the lower number, we are adding. For example, if we catch the imam at ruku and we are more doubtful that we didn't catch it, so we are adding extra movement.
No. Here we're talking about if you are not sure. If you are not sure, just forget about those 2. This is a different circumstance. Here you are sure that you added. Here you are sure that you omitted. Here you are in doubt. So doubt according to that explanation. If you are totally unsure, you make the 2 sajdas before taslim. You go for the less and make the 2 sajdas before taslim. If here, this is separate. This is why I said 1, 2, 3. If here for the first 2, you are certain that you added to the salah, or you are certain that you omitted from the salah. طيب. Yes. I'm sorry?
You one first, then go into the sujood, or you should?
لا يعني you make taslim out of the salah completely. You make the 2 taslimas. And by the way, scholars differ about whether the second one is required or just a sunnah. Okay, here for the Hanbalis, both of them are required. So anytime, when you have like disagreement among the scholars and the evidence is very close, go for the safest opinion. Like for example, now, many masjids have 2 Jum'ahs, right? They do the first most of the time before the time of the whole prayer. And the second after the Dhuhr, right? I know about some masjids in Virginia, they have 3 Jum'ahs. One at 11 o'clock, definitely before the whole time. Okay? Now, the majority of the scholars said you cannot pray Jum'ah before the whole time. Right? Now, the Hanbalis, they said you can do it. From after the sun rises, like 15 minutes after the sunrise until before time of Asr, you can do Jum'ah. There is no problem. Okay? You study their evidence. The evidence is not clear cut. Okay? Here, if you did your Jum'ah after Zuhur, your salah is correct according to everyone. If you did it before Zuhur, for the majority of the scholars, your salah is incorrect. So here you go to the safest opinion. It's called al-ahwat. If the evidence is not clear, but if the evidence is clear, if the evidence of the Hanbali is convincing to you, then you are okay. But if you deeply studied even by some great Hanbali scholars, they said, the evidence cited by them is not very clear, indicating that Jum'ah could be performed before the whole time. Okay, and there's another alternative for masjids. During the winter time, we don't have any problem because Zuhr gets in early. During the summer time, mashallah, we have a long time between Zuhr and Asr. So they can have the first one at 1:15, the second one like 2:15. Okay, but anyhow, my point here, if there is 2 opinions, okay, so, and you cannot tell based on the evidence which one is the stronger opinion, then go for the safest opinion. So the safest opinion here is to pray Jum'ah after Zuhr. Because if you did so, your salah is correct according to all the scholars. So you don't want to risk your Jum'ah. So going for the safest opinion is a good alternative when the evidence is not clear. Yes? The post khutbah and prayer, some scholars, they accept it. Like the Malikis, they said, there is no problem if the khutbah or part of it is started before the time of Zuhr. But the salah has to be after the zawal. Okay? But to be in the safe side, let the khutbah and the salah, both of them start after the whole prayer. And I'm sure, they can do that. Yeah.
Does a principle always need a positive, active proof?
A principle?
Yeah.
A principle is like by studying many evidence addressing certain issues, and you found that some commonality. Like, for example, the principle that says, for example, I'll give you another principle. For example, من صحت صلاته لنفسه صح اهتمامك به. If someone, when he does the prayer, he do it properly, and his salah is sound and good, then he can be imam for others. Now, for example, if someone is underage, like 6 or 7 years old, okay, can he lead the prayer? Yes. If he does the salah properly, he knows the rules of the salah, the recitation, everything properly. So his salah for himself is acceptable. Even though he's not required to pray, but it will be counted for him, right? So his prayer is right, then you can pray behind him. Another example, if someone cannot recite Fatiha correctly, and this is a common issue, and if you don't know how to read Fatiha correctly, don't lead the prayer. unless everyone is like you. Yeah, we have to be very clear. Because Fatiha is an essential component of the Salah. Don't leave the prayer if you think that there are someone, even as a child, إذا كان مميز 6 or 7 years old, a very smart child who knows the rules of the Salah, how to make Tahara properly, how to read Fatiha properly, let him read the prayer. Okay? But what if, yes, I look around, I didn't find anyone better than me. I start reading the prayer. Now in the middle of the Salah, another brother came in, MashaAllah, he memorizes the whole Quran. Can you pray behind that person who does not read Fatiha properly? This has to do with the principle that I mentioned. Can you pray behind him? Or you should wait? Or for example, the Imam who starts reading the prayer, you don't know. You saw that he's a good, and he can read Fatiha properly. But in the middle, once he starts reading Fatiha, he keeps making major mistakes in Fatiha. Should you continue pray behind him or not? This is a common issue, a real life issue. It happens almost in every masjid. But as I said, my advice to all the brothers, we have to be very serious about our salah. If you think that there are someone who reads Quran better than you, there's nothing wrong with that. You should try to perfect your recitation. If you can't, خلاص. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Some people, they keep for years trying to learn the proper pronunciation of some letters. They are not able to. خلاص, his salah is acceptable, inshallah, and he'll be rewarded for that salah. But he should not lead someone who knows Fatiha better than him, who knows Quran more than him. Okay? What should you do? In the middle of the salah, you find out that this imam is not reciting Fatiha properly. So what should you do? Should we leave the salah?
The one who knows.
Huh?
The one who knows takes over.
Now, if you can do that without disturbing other people, because it might create chaos, and the imam might get upset, and you don't know what would happen. And this is why I keep saying, we have, every time, if we started the salah, and then the regular imam came, even in the middle of the salah, he can take over. He has the absolute right to just stand beside that imam, to the left of the imam, and take over. Even if he already prayed 2 rak'at of the salah. And I will show you how he should complete it. But that's the right thing to be done. But, we have to educate people first. If the imam did so in the middle of the salah, it will create a chaos. People, they don't know what to do. Okay? So here, yes, if you can do that without making that chaos, yes, you stand to his right and to his left and lead the prayer. Okay? But definitely it's going to create some sort of, something will happen. Either people will be confused, they don't know what to do. So you should not do that. So the other alternative, either to just pull away and do the salah by yourself, or follow him. So which one you should choose? Pull away, finish your salah by yourself, or finish the salah with him? Yes? Yeah. No, Allahu Akbar, just like a regular sujood. You are sitting down, right? You say Allahu Akbar, then you move. No, usually, takbiras is called takbiratul intiqal, transitional. Like, for example, I'm in this position. I want to move to the ruku'. I would start saying Allahu Akbar while I'm moving. Allahu Akbar. The same thing for the sujood, okay? I'm sitting down. Once I start moving, I say Allahu Akbar. So you start, once you start moving, and you end before your forehead hit the ground. Try to finish it before that. Okay? But some people, they said Allahu Akbar, then they move. Some people, they move first and they say Allahu Akbar. Both of them is incorrect. This is why it's called takbiratul intiqal, the transitional takbiras. Okay? No. You don't, that disagreement among the scholars whether to read tashahhud after the 2 sajdas or not. But I don't think that any one of them said you cannot say Allahu Akbar. That is sujood al-tilawa, the prostration for tilawa. You don't say Allahu Akbar. But here you have to say Allahu Akbar. Because all the hadith that talked about the Prophet ﷺ making those 2 sajdas, he used to say Allahu Akbar. Now, yes. Yeah, and inshallah, before answering this question, the Fatiha is not issued, right? You said? If you, yeah, it's obligation, but it's not farl, it's not rukun. Meaning that if you did not read it, okay, if your salah ends with the Imam salah, you don't have to do anything. But if your salah has to end after the Imam salah, you have to make 2 sajda before taslim because you missed a wajib. In your case, it's not a rukun. Now back to the question. You discover that the brother he does not read Fatiha correctly. You are in the middle of salah. Should you continue or should you just separate? You continue with him. Yes, because first of all, you don't know from the beginning. Secondly, this is just like you are praying behind an imam. And in the middle of the salah, the imam was not able to make ruku' properly because he has a backache. Okay, now he failed to do a rukun of the salah. Fatiha is rukun and ruku' is rukun. So if you are allowed to continue praying behind him, even if he cannot make proper ruku' or proper sujood, you will be allowed to pray behind him if he is not reading salah correctly. This is if you discover this while you are praying. Okay, you should not pull away, continue the salah, and inshallah the salah will be acceptable or correct. But if you know from the beginning that he will not read Fatiha properly, then you should not join him, or if you want, you lead the prayer. Yeah, I know it's a common mistake. It happens all over the masjid, but we have to educate people. You know how not to get in such situation. طيب, any other questions? Yes.
What's the proper way?
Can you tell us how Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim they follow Prophet Muhammad properly in Salat?
طيب, very good question. Because it's called mutaba'a. The proper way of following the Imam, that we have to avoid 3 things. Okay? Let me just... This is called mutaba'a. Mutaba'a means that you, the follower, you should follow the Imam properly. In one hadith, that the companion said, when the Prophet ﷺ raises his head from the ruku', the companion said, none of us will move from this position, which is standing, when they saw the Prophet until they see the Prophet ﷺ putting his forehead on the ground. This is the proper way of following the Imam. Right? So we should avoid 3 things. We should avoid acting before the Imam. Right? You should not move before him. This is absolutely wrong. Okay? And it will, if someone did it intentionally, it will invalidate the salah. If he made a mistake, then he has to correct that mistake and go back and wait for the Imam to perform, and then he perform the action after him. Okay? So we should avoid acting before. Also, we should avoid acting simultaneously with the Imam, like moving at the same time with him. This is highly disliked. It won't affect the validity of the salah, lakin it reduces the reward. You should not act like some people, they just move with the Imam, raise their heads with the Imam. No. Also, we should avoid acting way after the Imam. Like, for example, some people, they make long sujood, even the Imam is already up. Okay? This is absolutely unacceptable. Why? Because you are supposed to follow the Imam. But what is the proper way of following the Imam? The proper way as described in this hadith. Like if the Imam now is standing up after ruku' and he said Allahu Akbar and he moved to the sujood. Don't move until you see the Imam putting his forehead on the ground. And an authentic hadith mentioned in Bukhari and Muslim that none of us لا يثني أحدنا ظهره حتى until the Prophet ﷺ put his forehead on the ground. For the ruku' the same thing. You wait until he is fully in ruku', then you move after. This is the proper mutaba'. This is about Salat al-Tasbih, and Ras yesterday I said Salat al-Tasbih is improper. And the evidence, which is a hadith mentioned in Sunan al-Tirmidhi, is not either a very weak hadith or a fabricated hadith. Yes, I know some of the contemporary scholars, they grade it as a good sound, like in majority of the scholars of hadith said this hadith is not authentic. Either it's a very weak or it is a fabricated hadith. Okay? Yes?
You know how like the brother asked about following the salat. So I notice sometimes like when the imam says like Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, the first one, I noticed like some people
you do it
they do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Should you do it at the same time or do you wait until you
do it
finish
at the same
both of them?
simultaneously is makruh. Yeah, and his salah is correct. But you know, this is disliked or discouraged. You know, of course if he did it before the imam, it's invalid salam. Okay? He must wait until the imam makes it taslim. But if he did it exactly at the same time like the imam, this is not recommended. It is disliked. Some people, they wait for the imam to do the first taslim and then they will do the first. And then when he does the second, they do the second. This is acceptable. But what's recommended is to wait until the imam does both taslimat, then you do it. So we have two levels. One, it is disliked, makruh, is to do it exactly at the same time like the imam. The second is acceptable, okay, which is to make the first after his first and the second after his second. And the third, which is recommended, is to wait until he finishes both taslimat, then you do your taslimas. Okay? Yalla, tfaddal, ya brother.
My question is, I go to some masjid before. My question is, some masjid, when you go there, before they do the salah, you see some people fold their jeans or something. They put it up. Is this something is part of the, or is just their own belief?
Folding one pants, you know, when it comes coming to the salah. طبعا في هنا two issues. The first issue of this is called al-isbal. Al-isbal is to let your, for example, trousers to go below your ankle. For men, the Prophet ﷺ says, ما أسفل من الكعبين ففي النار. يعني any part of your clothes that goes beyond the ankle, here, you know, that part of the body, it will be tortured by fire. And by the way, this has nothing to do with arrogance. Okay? Now, here, the punishment for an act like this is that قال ما أسفل من الكعبين. يعني if it's like 1 inch below the ankle, that 1 inch of one's body will be tortured by fire. You know, Muslims will be passing over the Sirat. Only the Muslims. Because the hypocrite and the kuffar will go right away. You know, right before the stage of Sirat, تضرب ظلمة, that it becomes very dark. Okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now will give light to the believers. By that light, they will see the direction of the Sirat and they will go to pass the Sirat. The kuffar and the munafiqeen, they won't have that light. So they will just go and they'll find the hell in front of them. Okay? Now people, while Muslims are moving over the Sirat, some people, they will be tortured while they're moving. Okay? Like the Prophet ﷺ says, وَيْلٌ لِلْأَعْقَابِ مِنَ النَّارِ. You know the heels? He says, when you make wudu, make sure that you wash that body, that part of your body, the heels. Because sometimes we tend to not to pay attention to that, because it will be tortured by fire. The same thing, if someone wore anything that goes, for men, that goes below the ankle, that part of his body will be tortured. Whether, you know, some people they say, no, this is only if he do it out of arrogance. Of course, if you don't know the rule, then this is an excuse. If someone has his garment goes below that for years, but he never realized that he's doing a haram. Okay? Inshallah, that person will be pardoned because he does not know the rule. وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. But once he knew about the rule and he's convinced, then he should not have his pants or trousers go below the ankle, whether in the salah or outside the salah. Okay? This is different than the hadith of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq when the Prophet ﷺ says, مَنْ جَرَّ ثَوْبَهُ خُيَلَاء, the one who dragged his garment, for example, as an act of khuyala, arrogance, Allah will not speak to him in the hereafter, and he will have a severe punishment. That's a different act. That one, if it's done out, because usually it's done out of arrogance. Okay, but in this specific hadith, the Prophet is talking about an act and a specific punishment. Anyhow, the stronger opinion of the scholars that men are not allowed to wear anything that goes below the ankle. Now, for the salah, doing that in the salah, and if you notice that Hanafis, they do that. Because there's a hadith in Sunan ibn Majah that Allah will not accept salat al-musbil. The one who has his pants or garment go below the ankle, Allah will not accept. But that hadith is a weak hadith. Okay. The stronger hadith that you should not have this in a salah or outside the salah. Okay. But if someone he does not know the rule and he prayed with his garment goes below his salah will be acceptable, no doubt about that. Wallahu ta'ala jalla wa'ala. Yes. Now women, yeah, even if she drags her jilbab, behind her, that should be okay. Because even the mother of the believer, Umm Salama, she said, that, there is dirt and sometimes najasa on the ground. He says, while you are moving, while she's moving, moving that part over the ground will clean even the najasa from it. So for women, they are recommended to have their jilbab to be longer, even if they drag it behind them, that's even recommended, but not for men. For men, they should not have, the trouser or the garment or the thawb goes below the ankle. Allah. Yes. Yes, fella. Yeah.
Yes. What about? I'll make this example. I was praying with, behind a brother, and the brother was very low. I couldn't hear his voice. He speak very, very low. So we made a ruku and no, a sujud. I'm sorry, a sujud. And we made a long sujud, and I couldn't know whether he said Allahu Akbar for us to raise up or not. But being that he speak very low, I can barely hear him. I happen to raise my head only to find out he's still in sujud. What is the situation in that case?
So in such situation, if you are unable to follow the imam properly, you just separate from that imam and finish the salah by yourself. An example that could happen, like sometimes you have pray Jum'ah, right? Very crowded. They have this part full and the other part full, right? Then out of the sudden, we have outage. There is no electricity. You lost the voice of the imam. So what should you do? So Jum'ah prayer. In the other part, okay, you are praying, but you cannot hear the imam. There is no way for you to tell whether he's in ruku or sujood. What should you do? Yes.
Shouldn't someone repeat? You know how they do in the house?
Yeah, if it's, of course. But now you have to separate. Now this part and that other part. So if there is no one to repeat, say, just let's go to the extreme condition. So what should you do? This, Allah, it happens before at Dar al-Hijrah, I remember. Some people, they pray inside the library. Suddenly they don't have electricity. And they were not able to follow the imam. So what should you do? It's a Jum'ah prayer. Now, listen, if you finish the first rak'ah, and this happens in the second rak'ah, then everyone by himself should make one more rak'ah. But if this is happened in the first rak'ah, so what should they do? Everyone should pray 4 rak'ah. Yes. Everyone, separately. Everyone should stand up or should finish that salah as a zuhr prayer and pray 4 rak'ah. Okay. But if they're already done with the first rak'ah and it happens in the second rak'ah, خلاص, you already, you took the hukum of Jum'ah. لا خلاص, you pray zuhr, but inshallah you will receive the reward because this is something out of your control. But the proper way to finish the salah is to finish it as zuhr prayer. Now the imam is already, because the imam, the other people, they listen, they can hear him, they finish. I'm talking about the group of people who are. Now back to the question of the brother, if you are praying behind someone who pray very fast, you are unable to catch up with him, or he's praying very slow and you cannot even hear his voice, you can separate from him and finish the salah by yourself. This I'm talking about extreme conditions. But if you can tell the movement of things, of course, as long as you are able to follow the imam, you are supposed to follow him. But if there is an excuse, like if you are praying behind the imam, okay, the imam is making the salah is very long and you are very sick or ill, still you have the option to separate from that imam. You don't have to move from your place. You know, just intend to separate from him and finish the salah by yourself. But here I'm talking about extreme conditions, that if he make it very long and you are ill or sick and it's very hard for you to continue the praying with the imam, you have that option. Okay? طيب. Yeah, let's see this question from one of the sisters. She says, women during the menstrual cycle, can they enter the masjid? The opinion of the majority of the scholars that no, they cannot enter the masjid unless, like, for example, just to pick up something and go, like if she left her coat or her daughter left a coat inside, she won't go inside and pick it. But staying in the masjid, she is prohibited from doing that. Some other scholars, they said no, there is no clear evidence prohibiting them. Because those who said she cannot stay in the masjid, they cited the evidence that the Prophet ﷺ says in the day of Eid, he commanded women to come out, even those who have their menstrual cycle. But he says, قال يعتزلن المصلى, that who have menstrual cycle, they should stay away from our musalla, the place that in which we are going to pray. So they base that, they use that as an evidence. The others said no, they should not come to the prayer, not because of their period, but because they are not praying, and you know they don't. Prophet did not want them to make it crowded for other women. So it's like, you know, they go back and forth. لكن والله تعلم الأحوط إنما تدخل المسجد. Yeah, unless there is a need for her to enter the masjid. Now, yes. She can stay home, inshallah she'll get the reward. And if she want to get the reward of Laylatul Qadr, even if she stayed home, because you know what prevented her from coming to the masjid? Is that ministerial period, right? And Allah knows about that. So she does not have to come to the masjid. Wallahu ta'ala. Huh? Yani if there is a need for her to enter the masjid, yani in our masjid, you know, we have to accommodate for the sisters like a special place where they can sit to listen to a lecture or, you know, any activity in the masjid without being in the masjid. The masjid means the area where we usually pray. But if there is a need for her to attend a class, okay, and there is no way for her to be outside the masjid, this would be an excuse. Yeah, I'm talking about if she has that need. Otherwise, you know, if there's a room where they have like a microphone and she can hear, then she would be in that room. Yes.
Are there actions that are permissible during salah, like turning your phone off or talking to a child?
Some movement is allowed in the salah. Any movement that you do to the benefit of the salah, you can do it. Like we are in lines, there is a gap in the first line, you can walk to fill that gap. Or you can pull a friend, you know. So you can also pray, especially if you have a child, like a baby, a young child, yeah, and you are recommended to hold him, okay? Even if you are the imam. So you hold him while you're praying, you put him when you make ruku'. So such type of movements are acceptable. Now, if your telephone rang while in the salah, you know, just put your hand inside the pocket and put it off. What if you put it on the ground? Now, a common mistake, some people, you know, while in the qiyam, they bow to put it off. This is wrong, because you are supposed to stay in that position of qiyam. If someone did it non-intentionally, unknowingly, inshallah, it won't harm him. But now you know, you cannot do that. Okay, because now your position in qiyam, you should not move. But if you can do it with your foot, you can do it. Okay? But if you left it on your jacket and the jacket is on the back and it keep disturbing everyone's prayer. Like if you are in the last row and you can move, you know, without diverting from the direction of Qibla and do that, without making many movements, that will be acceptable. Otherwise, you break your salah and put it off and come back to the salah. So this is almost all the scenarios. Okay? Yes. Yes.
I have a question. They said every salah begins with wudu, right?
I'm sorry?
Every salah begins with wudu.
With wudu?
Right.
Yeah, if you don't have wudu, then you have to make wudu, yes.
Correct. All right. What I noticed beginning from me, right? Most of the time when we're doing wudu, if we have socks on, we don't take it out. Is that permissible?
It's permissible. لكن طبعا there are certain conditions need to be fulfilled. You know, we covered this in the first part of the workshop. But I will repeat. You know, if you put your socks after making a complete wudu, say you made wudu at home, and then you put your socks. Then later on, as long as you kept your socks on, later on, if you lost your wudu, you make wudu, but you don't have to take off your socks. You just wet your hands with water, and then place the right over the right, the left over the left, and then you wipe over it. Start from the extremity of the toes, and you go up to the beginning of the shin. Okay? That's acceptable. And you have the permission to do that for 24 hours. As long as you have your socks on. But if someone needed to make ghusl, because he's in a state of janaba, he must take off his socks and wash the entire body. So that act is acceptable if it's worn after a complete wudu at home. Okay? Yalla. Brother, yes.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's say you walk in and then the salah already starts, and then you stand next to a brother and you found out that their odor is not pleasant.
What's that?
The smell, smell, whether they smoke or garlic or something. You already make takbirat, you already start your salah, but it's inconvenience for you. What should you do?
You can move. أول حاجة the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم says من أكل ثوما أو بصلا أو كراتا فلا يقربن مصلانا. If you ate garlic, fresh garlic, not cooked, or onion, or this green onion, okay, then don't come to the masjid, even if it's Salat al-Jum'ah. It's a prohibition. The Muslim is prohibited to come to the masjid. Now the scholars used qiyas. They said anything that make or give this bad smell, like if someone is a mechanic and he comes just from the shop to the masjid with grease and everything of that, he should not come to the masjid. If someone smokes, and smoking is even worse, because eating garlic itself is halal, right? Now smoking itself is haram, plus it has that odor, which is even might be worse than garlic. So he should not come to the masjid to pray. Okay? But if that happens, you are in the middle of the row and that thing bothers you, then you should move. Okay? Now, even if you are, they said, this is the imam here, you are in the first row. Okay? Is it better to stay in the first row because of the virtue of praying in the first row, or to move to the second row, which is less reward, but you will be away from that order? Here it's better to move. Okay, because also there is a principle here. The principle says the virtue that related to the very act itself should be considered more than the virtue related to the place or the timing of the act. Okay? For example, if it is very crowded in the first line, squeezing. Okay, now being in the first line is a virtue related to the place. Right? But having khushu' is a virtue related to the very salah itself. So either you stay here without khushu' or move to the second line with khushu'. So which one you choose? Moving to the second line with khushu'. Now if someone's odor bothers you, so you won't have khushu' in the salah, even if you are in the first line, then you can move to the, you can go back to the, the second or the third line without diverting from the direction of Qibla in order to avoid that, because the virtue of khushu' has priority over the virtue of being in the first line. So in here, yes, you can move from that position to another place in the line or in the different line in order, to avoid that. No. Yes. طيب, what should a person do if the baby is crying during the salah? Now, yes, like sister, of course, as I said, if it's a young baby, she or he should, have it with him, like holding him. Okay, when you go to the ruku', put them on the ground and make ruku' and sujood, and then you lift him again. Okay, so this is one thing. But if it's crying, still crying and disturbing everyone's prayer, should she leave the prayer? I would say yes, she should leave the prayer instead of, disturbing everyone's prayer. So in this case, yes, she should leave the prayer, in order to save everybody else's prayer. Allah Ta'ala. Type.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go back to the question about wiping over the sock. I saw a brother here in the masjid that wipe over his shoes. Is that acceptable?
Type.
And also, one more question. I was in the masjid the other day, and I was sitting and resting on my left arm, and a brother pulled me and told me that is forbidden. Can you clear that?
I'm sorry, say it again.
I was sitting like this and resting on my left arm, and he pulled me. He said I shouldn't do that.
Type. The second question, can you sit while you're having your left hand on your back? Of course, this is prohibited. Or if it's not prohibited, it's highly disliked. Because the Prophet ﷺ saw one of the companions, his name is Suwaid, sitting the same way. He said, don't sit like this. This is the sitting of the maghdubi alayhim, those who earn the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, now he was sitting and leaning on his left hand. Now, if you have both hands, it's not prohibited. If you did it with the right hand, it's not prohibited. If you have the left to your side, it's not prohibited. The only prohibition if you have it behind you. Okay? So because the hadith is talking about that specific way, some people, they put their both hands. That's acceptable. Someone, they put the right hand. That's acceptable. Because the people, al-maghdub alayhim, the way they sit is they put the left behind them. So this is for the second question. And the first question is about wiping the shoes, yeah. Now, look, one of the conditions of wiping with the two socks, first, you have to wear it after wudu. Secondly, it must be covering the entire foot, including the ankle. So if someone just wearing a shoe, okay, but the shoe is like this, usually the ankle is up, he cannot wipe over this. But if he has like socks, okay, he can wipe. But the way to wipe is to wipe, the shoe along with that part of the socks. Because wiping, start from the extremity of the toes all the way here. Okay? So if the shoe is up to here, then you should wipe this part, including this. That would be acceptable. And they will be treated like as if you are wearing one thing that has two layers. Okay? This is a layer, and then the shoe coming out of that. So that would be acceptable.
Any shoes?
Now,
Any shoes?
any type of shoes. Now, of course, when he enters the masjid, he won't pray on his shoes, right? He's going to take off his shoes. Does this nullify his tahara? Or like someone, he made masah over the socks. But he found out, his socks are dirty. He decided to take off his socks. Does this action nullify his wudu? Or not sure? It could happen, right? This is a real life situation. If you decided to take off your socks, do you have to make wudu? We answered this question in the first part. يلا تفضل يس.
No for this particular scholar, but if he lose his wudu, he cannot make masjid.
Yeah. No, we're not talking about losing the wudu. We're talking about just merely taking off. Why?
You can take it out and then
Taking it won't affect your wudu. Lakin, do you have evidence for that? We mentioned two evidences. The first evidence is lack of evidence. Why? Because when I made masah, I'm in a state of tahara. The evidence says that I'm in a state of tahara. Now, if you are telling me removal of my socks will invalidate the tahara, you ought to bring an evidence. And there is no evidence. So the scholar said the first evidence is the absence of evidence. The second evidence is qiyas, analogy. They said if someone made wudu, and then afterwards he decided to shave his head. He shaved his hair. Okay? Now, he already wiped over the hair. None of it is there. Shaved all. Does this nullify his wudu? No. By the unanimous consensus, the scholar, it won't nullify. So removal of your socks is just like shaving after making wudu. So removing your socks will not affect your wudu. It won't affect. So you can take off your socks and pray. Unless someone broke his wudu by using the bathroom or he slept, something like that, of course, this will nullify the wudu. But not merely removal of the socks. Yes? No, just, okay.
What if you were in the first row and then you needed to go to the restroom and then the second row was complete?
Well, but if you're in the first row and you need badly to go, I added this badly, okay, to use the bathroom, what should you do? It's a real life situation, it could happen. First of all, we are prohibited to come to the salah while we are in such a state. If you feel the need to use the bathroom, you should not come to the salah. Even if you hear the iqamah being made, go to the bathroom, relieve yourself, and come comfortable to the salah. If the food is prepared in front of you, even in Ramadan, and you hear the adhan for Salat al-Maghrib, and you are very hungry, okay, and you are attached to that food, eat first and then walk to the salah, okay? But say, it happened during the salah, that in the salah he had that urgent need to move. Of course he could move. He can squeeze between the people, especially for young guys. They can squeeze in between and go. And we should let him, we should give him some space and let him go.
Verify or make sure this understanding of the wiping is correct. So somebody makes wudu, washes for it, and then take off his socks for whatever reason and put the socks back on while still in wudu. Okay? And then can he continue
wiping?
Wiping.
Yes. Now, if he still has his original wudu, like for example, I made wudu at home, now I just renewed my wudu. I did not break my original wudu. Then I took off my socks to put new socks. No problem, you can wipe over them because the condition is, you wore them after a wudu in which you wash your feet. There is no problem. But say he lost his wudu, then he wiped over his socks, then he decided to take off his socks. It won't nullify his tahara. But if he put them again, he cannot wipe over them.
Okay.
Why? Because he did not put them in a tahara in which he washed his feet. He lost that tahara. Okay? Did this answer the question?
Yes.
Yeah. So it depends. If he still has his original wudu, and he decided in the middle of that to take the socks and put new socks, no problem, because he put the new socks in a tahara in which he washed his feet. But if he lost that wudu, and he wiped over the socks, and then he took them off, then of course he cannot wipe
now,
them.
Sheikh, if he wiped the socks once while in the state, while in the state of tahara, he wiped his socks once, and he take the socks off.
No problem. And you put another socks?
And you put another socks. Can he continue wiping?
Yeah, okay. He took one of the socks after wiping over it, right? Now, the proper way you have first, according to the Hanafis, you need to wipe both socks first. Like they said, for example, if he put the first sock and then he wiped over it, and then he put the second, he wiped over it, it's not counted. Okay, both of them should be present when you wipe over them both. Okay, And the proper way is not to do the right first and the left second. No, the right way is to put both hands simultaneously at the same time over the two socks. And you start from the extremity of the toes and you go all the way up to the beginning of the shin. You do it at the same time. This is the proper way. Of course, you can do the right first and then the left first. But, doing one and then putting the other one and doing it is improper. Both of them should be on your feet when you make the. So in this case, if you want to change this one, make the other one, and then after that you can change. You can take it off and put another one. Is it clear? Why I think?
The brother that asked question was asking you. He has wudu. He wiped over his socks.
Okay.
For some reason, he removed that socks. He changed from white socks to blue socks.
Okay.
After wearing the blue socks, can he continue wiping over the blue socks?
I answer this part. I answer this part first. That if he still has his original wudu, there is no problem. But if he lost that wudu and he already wiped over the two socks, and then he decided to change them, then he can, yes, he can do that. His wudu is still valid, but he cannot wipe over them later on. Is it clear?
Yes, he cannot wipe over them.
Yeah. But the condition, brother, now, let's say it in other words. Like I made wudu, full wudu, in which I wash my feet. I put my socks, okay? Before losing that wudu, I decided to change those black socks with blue socks. No problem. Put blue or red, any type of socks, still you can wipe over them because you still have the original tahara. But say I lost my wudu while I'm having those black socks. Then I made wudu, another wudu, by wiping over the socks. Then I decided to change them. Changing them will not nullify your tahara, but you cannot wipe over the new socks. Because the condition that you have to wear the socks while you're in a state of a full tahara, a tahara in which that you wash your feet. Because the Prophet ﷺ told Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah, قال له دعهما فإني أدخلتهما طاهرتين. He says, leave them alone, leave my feet alone, because I put them while they are in tahara, the 2 feet, on my khuf. So the scholar said, when you put your feet first in the socks, it must be washed in a wudu, a full wudu. This is the only one valid condition. Now, yes, the brother.
What about if the snap still have What about if you still have the wudu, you just want to renew it after you change the socks?
Yeah, okay, that's okay. You can, if you only renewing your wudu, you do not lose your original wudu, and then you change your socks, that will be okay. You can wipe over them. Okay, طيب, here we have one of the sisters say, is it okay to have big nails, I mean long nails? طبعا السنة, هذه يسمى سنن الفطرة. Clipping one nails is a sunnah, it's from the sunnah of fitra. So we are sunnah, it's called sunan al-fitra. Yani it is highly disliked for male or females to have long nails. Okay? So we are supposed to clip our nails. And this rule is applied both equally for female and females. Right? Type. The other question regarding the ruling of one who cannot read Fatiha properly. What if he is the only man of the house? Yani the sister read Fatiha better than him. Can she pray behind him? This is a question? Now, and subhanAllah, I think the real life situation that sometimes the father might not be able to read Fatiha correctly, but his sons, they read Fatiha, they know Quran better than him. Then they would lead the prayer. They lead the prayer. If he is mumayyiz like 6 or 7 years old, he knows the rules of the salah, he do proper tahara, then he lead the prayer. But if the wife, this question is about the sister knows Fatiha better than her husband. Okay, of course she cannot lead the prayer. So can she pray behind that husband or to pray by himself? She can pray behind that husband. طيب what should a person do if no, we answered this question already. Okay, we have a question here. طيب, if you are trying to bring someone's close to you during the salah, sometimes yes, there is a gap between you and the one who is close to you. To fill in the gap, and he's refusing. Sometimes people, subhanAllah, they just, it would be, but what should you do? Should you stretch your feet like this? Some people, they do like this. Of course, the Prophet ﷺ says, "Leenu fi aydi ikhwanikum." It's an instruction to the people that if a brother, like in this situation, he just pull you to fill that gap, be soft and move with him. Okay? So this is what's recommended for us to do. But if he refuses, khalas, you should continue doing your salah. And here, by the way, the proper way to straighten the lines is to stay like having your feet like number 11. Okay? Because most of the brothers, they do like this. They have the feet like number 7. Right? Some people, they stretch their feet like this. How did I tell that it must be like number 11? Because it was mentioned in Al-Bukhari. The Prophet ﷺ says, the companion says, كَانَ أَحَدُنَا يَلْزِقُ مَنْكَبَهُ بِمَنْكَبِ أَخِيهِ وَكَعْبَهُ بِكَعْبِ أَخِيهِ. One of us, he used to paste his shoulder with his brother's shoulder and his ankle with the brother's ankle. So in order to have your ankle close to your brother's ankle and shoulder and the shoulder close to the brother, the feet must be like this. Because if I have my feet like 7, then my ankle will go away from my brother's ankle. Right? If I stretch my feet like that, my shoulder will go away from my brother's shoulder. So we have to be like this. Pace does not mean that you have to push your ankle hardly against your brother's ankle. This is also a common mistake. No, as practical as possible. You don't have to touch his, your feet touching his feet or your ankle. No, but as close as practically possible. But for the shoulder, we need to have the shoulders touching. We should not leave. The gap is what between the shoulders. Okay? But you don't push your feet. I saw some brothers, they push, even they did their feet like this to have the ankle. No, this is a misinterpretation of the hadith. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, he interpreted this hadith in Sahih in Fath al-Bari. He says that to be as close as possible, the feet and the ankles, because it's very hard to have your ankle touching your brother's ankle. You have to do, it's very hard for you to do that. So just keep your foot very close to your brother's foot. But for the ankle, it's not hard, to have the ankles closing the gaps. Now, yes.
After you have wudu and you have socks on, how long you should have it before you change it or before you make wudu?
For how long you are allowed to wipe over the 2 socks, right? Now, if someone, I gave this example last time, if I made wudu at 5:30 a.m. in the morning time, okay, and then I put my socks, okay, 12 o'clock, I lost my wudu, okay, but I did not make wudu and wipe over the 2 socks until Salat al-Zuhr, 1:15, okay. You have 24 hours, as long as you are keeping them on. So the 24 hours start from here or here or here? The last one. You count the 24 hours from the first time you wipe over the 2 socks after losing your wudu. Okay? So you have until 1:15 the following day, as long as you have them on. If you are a traveler, you have the permission for 3 days, which is 72 hours if you are a traveler. But if you are muqim at your hometown, you have only 24 hours. Now, any question from the sisters?
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu.
Salatul Dhuhr came in around 1:30. The sister delayed because she's cooking or whatever. And at 2 o'clock or thereafter, before Asri, she realized that she doesn't have Salah anymore. After 5 days, 7 days, where is she going to start her Salah? Because the Dhuhr came in, she delayed. knowingly or unknowingly. Then she realized it. The same thing happened after she finished her period. It was finished at Maghrib time. When she knew it was finished at Maghrib time, but she realized it after Salatul Isha, that it was finished at Maghrib time.
خلاص, what matters here, when the time of the salah is in, can she pray or not? Okay? If she cannot pray, like for example, if her menstruation comes like 5 minutes before Asr time, but all that time is a time for her to pray, then she has to make up that prayer later on. And for the other question, if she is pure at Maghrib time, but she did not realize that until Isha time, yes, you have to make Salat al-Maghrib too. Okay. And as I said, inshallah, last week, when we talk about tahara, we did not cover menstruation and the rules concerning menstruation. Inshallah, if the sisters by themselves, in another week, inshallah, they want to talk, want me to talk about the rules concerning, specific issues that only happens to women, inshallah, we can have that, inshallah. But in this question, it's very clear that she must make up those prayers. Allah. Yes.
I have two questions. The first one, the first question, if you know your wife or your kids, they are on your menstruation, you already have wudu, and you touch them, is that wudu still valid?
You touch them?
Yeah.
Children?
Yeah.
Yeah, it won't affect touching children or another man.
Like you say salam to her or whatever, then you already have wudu.
You are talking to your wife?
Your wife, yeah.
Okay. If someone, for example, touch any part of his wife's body, does this? Also, we talked about this before, but just briefly, according to stronger opinion of the scholars, it won't affect one's body.
Okay.
This is the Hanafi's opinion, and it tends to be the stronger opinion.
Then the second question, like yesterday, because a lot of scholars, they have different opinions.
Okay.
Like you owe Asri, then you came to the masjid, then you see the praying Maghrib. What's the right procedure for you to do?
As I said, for the majority of scholars, you have to do the missed prayer first. You do Asr first, and then you do Maghrib after that. But if they are already starting doing Salat and Maghrib, you join them with the intention of Asr. Okay? When he says Taslim, you stand up, do one more rak'ah to make it 4. Okay? Then you do your Maghrib after that.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Yeah, question I have, you're praying Asri or Dua, and then the first rak'ah, you're reading Surah Al-Fatiha, then you're in the middle, you are reading loud instead of silent.
Okay.
Then you stop right there. Then after you finish the Salat, what do you do after that?
Yeah, here there is no sujood sahu. You don't prostrate for forgetfulness. Okay. If you want to do it, it's not an obligation. It's obligatory to do those two sajdas if you left a wajib, something that's obligatory. But reciting loudly or quietly is not obligation. It's only recommended. To the extent that even if you intentionally you pray Salat and Maghrib quietly, your Salah is valid, because reading out loud is only recommended. So if you forget and you recite quietly, you are okay. Okay? You don't have to make sujood as-sahw. طيب سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى اللهم وسلم وبارك على محمد بارك الله فيكم.